everybody. Welcome to a special episode of Hair of the Dogcast, a special epilogue to our Final Fantasy month, which we had just a few weeks ago.
My name is Brad. I'm the hairy one.
And my name is Tom. I am never going to get that far, but I'm trying. I got the quarantine stuff going on right now, so.
We are joined today by an incredible acting talent appearing on shows like Star Trek, X-Files, CSI Miami, and 24. You know him as the voice of Nick Fury, Fire Emblem, and of course, the man with a fucking gun for an arm, Barret Wallace from the Final Fantasy VII Remake. We are joined today by the one and only John Eric Bentley.
Hey, y'all, what's happening?
Welcome to the Dogcast, buddy.
Thank you for having me. Whoop, 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 like Arsenio used to do. Like DMX. Whoop, 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 whoop.
There you go.
There we go. That's
we know where
dog.
our dogs are at. For sure.
John, thanks so much for coming on today. It's a dream come true. Huge fan.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me on. And you can't finish Final Fantasy without Barret. What the hell's wrong with you?
You really can't.
The remake teased it for a second. Spoiler warning.
Ooh, yeah. There might be spoilers in this podcast.
No, we'll keep it spoiler free. We'll keep it spoiler free.
Is it really like spoilers are still going on? People still haven't played the game, but pretty much everyone has received their copy of the game. Am I correct?
Everyone should have their copy by now.
By now, yeah.
I pre-ordered it from 2 websites, and then I got a physical copy that day of, just in case they didn't show up.
Okay.
I think Australia got it in January.
Oh, yeah, I kid you not. Australia got it real early. They're like, no spoilers, but I really liked your performance when you did the 5th. I'm like, come on. Everybody hasn't heard that yet, but thank you. But come on.
So, John, let's start off with a softball. Are you from Chicago?
Yes, born and raised in Chicago. Was born in Evanston. My parents adopted me at I think 6 months, maybe 4 months. Grew up in Chicago. Went to school in Minnesota at the University of Minnesota. Decided to stay there for grad school after playing football for the Gophers. Then wound up going to grad school there, and then said, "Hey, let's check out California."
Warmer.
I've been here ever since. Yeah, but a lot warmer.
So, you don't miss the snow?
You know what? This is crazy. I miss the snow, but I don't miss the cold weather. You know, like here, I got it all. I can like go up to the mountains right now and there's snow and I'm golden. I come right back and today I think the hottest day is supposed to be 100 degrees a day. I haven't been outside, so I'm good.
Good for you. Yeah, definitely stay indoors. I heard about the heat wave that's coming and there's such a thing as too hot.
If it's part of tearing up this cycle of corona and whatever the heat is supposed to be doing, especially for the melanin for everybody's skin, then by all means, heat, bring it on.
Yeah. How are you doing through the whole social distancing quarantine?
It's different. I'm a people person and I'm a hugger. I like, going to church and hugging my folks and seeing people, but it's different. I've got 4 boys and my wife and we're all in the house. We find different little things to do. But it's different, bro. It's different, and I'm tripping at all the protesters. I've got several friends and family members who have either contracted the disease. Some have survived, others haven't. When it's close to home like that, you just have a different mindset on. I'm gonna go out and protest for all my rights. No, it's like no. I'd rather fight battles that are worthy of fighting and not dependent upon my family's safety or death. And myself, you know what I mean?
Right. And all our best go out to all your friends and everyone who's affected.
I appreciate that.
These are some strange times.
I work for a brewery, and lately I've been selling hand sanitizer in a parking lot. That's where my life is right now.
I'll tell you what, that's a good life to be, though. I'm telling you, B. A lot of folks don't have it, right?
Yeah, I'm lucky to be able to work and to be providing something that people need. I'm very happy to be a part of this. But like you said, I'm a hugger. It was his birthday yesterday, and I couldn't give him one.
Come on now, T. Give him a pound for me. Give him a pound for me then. Happy belated birthday, brother. So what do you like, 17?
He acts like it.
He's like, I'll take that.
More like a 13-year-old.
All good, man. We're gamers, man. We never age.
It's true. I'm old enough to have played the Atari 2600.
That's what I'm talking about right there. I just did an interview for Brazil. And they're like, yeah, what's your experience with video games? I'm like, do you remember in television? We'll go back further. Do you remember Pong? I'm Atari 26 all the way. Right there with you, bro.
Right.
You mentioned University of Minnesota. I'm just curious. Did they call it Dinkytown back then when you were there too?
Yes, they did. Where are you? How do you know that?
We're out of Milwaukee right now, but I lived in Dinkytown for like 6 years. I delivered pizza in that area.
Oh my gosh. Did you ever go to Dreamhaven, the bookstore?
Yeah, I went to Dreamhaven.
Oh yeah. Dinkytown is completely different now.
It still has some good pizza and a lot of drunks. That's all it has still.
Yeah, it did at certain times of night, but the drunks were young drunk, so it was different. But I used to go to Rocky Rococo's when it was open there, and I don't even think that chain exists anymore. Some of the best pizza in the world when I was in college.
Yep.
Hey, I'm Rocky Rococo. Remember the guy?
I never saw a commercial. That's funny.
Hey, wake up and try my Rocky's one-of-a-kind pizza.
The corporate headquarters is at a little dinky town here in Wisconsin, not too
that's
far away
funny.
from us. So, yeah.
No, I remember playing at Madison because I played ball, so I remember going to Madison all the time. And
Oh, sure.
I've got a friend up in Spring Green right now who's doing the theater repertoire up there. So I should be coming to Spring Green hopefully when this is done, just to visit and see what they're doing up there.
Do you come back to the Midwest often when you can?
My dad passed in 2017, so that was pretty much the last time I'd been to Chicago. And then in the same year, my wife's dad passed in Minnesota. And so it's tough for me to go back to the Midwest. Not that I don't have folks there. It's just
You got friends in Wisconsin
now,
so-
right? But Wisconsin's different. Although I used to go to River Falls probably once a month
Oh, yeah.
when I played just to get away. I was a different kind of football player, like, I mean, we're video game fanboys and I was different. I would do my homework at a jazz bar and people thought I was nuts. And I went over to River Falls like once a month just to get away from it all because being an athlete at a major university like that in the Big Ten, when they actually had 10 teams, and I wasn't even like a star player or anything, but I just wasn't used to the hustle and bustle of things and that I just wasn't, even though I was from Chicago, it was a different kind of pressure.
So you were an athlete and you were also studying theater there. Did you kind of always gravitate towards acting? Is that something you knew you wanted to get into?
Crazy thing. My mom was a school teacher, so she taught me how to read at a very young age. I think I had been done with the Iliad, the Odyssey. I think I was done with every bit of Greek and Roman mythology at about 9 years old. But I was also, I was a comic book freak too. So, I would walk up to the comic book store and get my comic book and, and I said, okay, well, that series isn't done yet. So you got to come back and get, Spider-Man fights Venom. And I'm like, wait a minute, what about Maximum Carnage? And, so they're like, I had to come back every week or every month,
Right.
depending on when they finish and put the thing out. And
So you were a Marvel guy.
I was both, actually. I never really dug DC, but I dug Batman. And I dug a lot of the different sub-characters.
I don't think anyone would say Batman isn't a cool character. Like
no.
even hardcore Marvel people are like, yeah, Batman is still cool.
You got to give it to Batman.
You all relate to it. But I was a young guy, man. And because my mom taught me how to read at a young age, I got upset. I was like, hey, can you give me some more Greek mythology since you're the school teacher? She's like, what are you talking about? I said, the next series is coming out next week, right? Because I was a comic book dude. She's like, no, honey, that was written years ago. That's done. It's Greek and Roman mythology.
You read it all.
Right, you read it all. I'm like,
What are you
damn
going
it.
to do?
So as a kid, I was that kid, and I was 5 years old in kindergarten, and they wanted to do a presentation at the graduation. So they said, hey, can somebody do the Dr. Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech? And, I'm in class like, hell no. I'm not doing that. That's a lot of words. And my mom said, sure, you know how to read it. She's like, as a matter of fact, if you know how to read it, then you know how to memorize it. And I'm like, what? So she volunteered me at 5, 6 years old to get up and do this thing. And then I did it because the school at the time was on the west side where a lot of the riots took place after the King assassination. Mm-hmm. I was in the middle of that neighborhood and did this speech for graduation as a kindergartner. And I saw how the parents were moved, the grandmothers were moved, the teachers were moved. And I went, whoa, me just coming up here and trying to do that made you feel that way? I really like this. So at 5, 6 years old, I was like, oh, this is cool. If you can move somebody with words, then what's next? Mm-hmm. But in college, when you play for the NCAA, you belong to that college and the NCAA. So you can't do anything on camera For a commercial, even your voice, you can't do those things because you will have breached the contract.
But yet they can make money off of you.
They can make money off of us. Although it's changing now. It's coming around now. And with this whole COVID thing, well, that's a whole different conversation. So in high school, I did declaration and I did all these different speech things and debate and all these. I was like, oh, this is cool. But I was still an athlete. So I had this weird dichotomy thing going.
Right.
When I finished undergrad, then I went, wait a minute. I can make money doing this now. So I started working and then I went to grad school and then my professors got a little jealous. I personally will tell you the truth, what it was. I was working my ass off because I'm just a hustler like that from Chicago. I worked a lot. And at one point they're like, you're slacking off in work. And I think I had a 3.6 or 3.7 GPA. And I'd never playing ball. 3 point what? I was just barely, right. 2.8, maybe 2.9, just so I could stay eligible to play. Mm-hmm. I'm in grad school. I'm thinking I'm kicking butt. And they're like, no, you have to have a 4.0. I've never heard that in my life.
What?
And it was a policy. Yeah, it was a policy that these three particular teachers kind of instilled. And I'm like, okay. And they said, if you don't get all A's next quarter, we're going to kick you out. Mind you, I'm telling y'all things that nobody knows. But I'm going to tell it now because I'm 50 years old. I'm going to tell it true. It's my tell-all book. At the time, they're like, you got to get all straight A's or you're out of here. And I'm like, wait a minute. We're supposed to have 6 people in our program, in our grad school program. One person dropped out. Another person didn't even come. And the third person didn't even exist. I think they got kicked out or something. They left. They just got married or something. So there are only 3 of us. 3 people out of the 6 are supposed to go on to the Guthrie, right? Man, everybody left. So I'm like, it's a lock. 3 of us are going into the Guthrie. Right. They took 1 of us. And so I knew it was weird when they told me if you don't get straight A's during this program, you're going to be kicked out. And I had like a 3.7 GPA. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. So anyway, my advisors, and I'm going to say their names because they saved my life, James Norwood and Elizabeth Nash were my advisors for my grad school program. And they said, listen, you need to do this, this, and this. And it was all about a Shakespearean class. And I didn't know anything about Shakespeare other than it's iambic pentameter and it sounds like ancient rap. It's true. So, and that's how I was able to pass, actually. They said, if you do these 3 steps, they'll never be able to touch you again. And this is my second year in a 3-year program. And so I did those 3 steps. I got straight A's. They were never able to say anything to me again. I found out later that I could have, filed a suit or whatever. That didn't matter. I just wanted my degree to go on. The rest is kind of history.
You went out to LA. You're such a big gamer. Did you hope to get into video game voice acting, or did you want to primarily work on TV at first, or were you thinking stage when you went out there?
Well, when I came to Los Angeles, I was still under the mindset of theater because I had done so much in Minneapolis. But I'll never forget my first job was Sister Sister, a guest star role on Sister Sister. Coming out here, I sent out all these different, hey, I'm coming out to LA. I'd love to work for you. I'd love to meet with you. I'd love to network. And I got one response back, and it was from a woman named Monica Swan, who was a casting director. She's no longer with us, bless her heart, but she was a casting director for Sister Sister, the Wayans Brothers, several different shows at the time. Because I don't know if you remember, back in the day, there was a lot of black comedy in the 90s.
I watched a lot of Sister Sister back in the day.
Yeah, they're great people. I wound up booking that show. I got my first check, and I remember calling my dad, and I said, Dad, I don't think I'll ever do regional theater again. And he's like, why? Because I just got paid 3 times the amount of money for 3 days of work, which would be a 5 to 6 week run for regional theater. Someone said, yeah, you think that's something. Wait until you see the residuals. And I'm like, residuals?
My buddy studied stage acting as well. He did one Totino's Pizza Roll commercial, and I think he was ready to retire.
Kid you not. It's very different from doing regional theater. So I only do regional theater when it means something, or if it's something that literally speaks to me, like big time.
Well, as a big gamer, you played Final Fantasy VII before, back in the day.
The original, yes.
The original. Did you hear that they were looking for a Barret and just jump all over it? Were you thinking maybe you'd play Tifa?
Well, actually, I thought I was going to play, Aerith, but no. Shout out to Breezy, but no. I was working for a woman by the name of Rita from Wonder Dog Media, and she said, "Hey, I know you've done this for me, and you've done this with me, and we've cast you for this. There's a role coming up I'd like you to read for." And I'm like, what is it? And she said, it's Barret is the character's name. Barret, okay, cool. Because, you get several different auditions all over the place all the time. And then she showed me the picture and went, whoa.
Did you know the remake was a thing yet when you saw that?
No, I had no clue. And I had no clue that the remake was a thing in the making for a very long time. Because after talking with Erica Lindbeck, she was like, yeah, I was cast as this back in. I'm like, what? She said, this was out? She was like, yeah, they hadn't cast everyone else. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So when I found out who it was, I was like, I got 7 ways I can do this. We're going to do it like this, and we can try them like this. And so I was very excited to audition. I felt very honored because it was my first RPG ever playing as a young adult. And it was the first RPG I had ever seen. Matter of fact, the first video game that I can remember that had a black man who was a leader and didn't die in the damn show or the storyline and was respected. And, I'm like, wait a second, this is a big thing here. And so I knew the gravity of playing this character. My biggest challenge was, how do I play him against the stereotypes that so many people see him as?
Right.
And pretty much see black characters in video games or anime or animation as. I just didn't want to produce a stereotypical black character.
I really like both in the remake and the original, the way he comes off as a very strong, in-your-face, aggressive character. And they slowly introduce, his daughter. And the more you learn about the character, they really go so far to humanize him. And there's a point, later in the game when him and Cloud are like, we like each other. And it's so great. Yeah. He was a strong character. I remember being a kid being really taken aback by everything in Final Fantasy VII.
When I knew the remake was going to be a thing, I was probably looking forward to seeing how they pulled off Barret the most, just because, it was kind of a dicey situation with that character. How you bring him in to this socio-political climate and still do the character justice. I think you did a masterful job.
I appreciate it. The 80s was a different era.
It came off exactly how I remembered him speaking in my head when I was reading the text back in the day.
That's cool.
Although how anyone with a giant gun for an arm pretends to be undercover in public.
That is true.
I know, right?
Yeah. And it was fun seeing how Barret climbs a ladder in the remake.
Yeah. When does he have time to work out and being so angry?
Strong.
He's huge. He's got some mitts for hands.
You got to remember where Barret came from, though.
From a coal mining town.
Yes, exactly. And he was a miner. You got to understand what he did for a living and how he lost his arm. Most people don't do the research on, I should say, a lot of players don't know the research unless you're like a diehard Final Fantasy fan. Most people don't know the research on the characters, where they come from, what they did, how they came into. I mean, you get the backstory early on about Cloud and Tifa. But let's talk about what happened to Barret. How did Barret? Who is Marlene? You got to know the whole story about how this man and why he is who he is, his size, everything. As an actor, that's what you have to do in preparation to play a role. But for me, it went over and above anything for me because there is so much riding on it for me. One, because of the political and societal climate we live in now. I wanted to make sure that he wasn't a caricature. I just wanted him to be a character, not a caricature.
Absolutely.
I wanted him to be represented the right way, not doing anything that would be detrimental to me as a man, my family, or my culture. I just couldn't do it that way.
The characters all felt so real and three-dimensional in the remake. There's moments when Barrett's just singing and having fun, and then there are moments, when characters are all serious. There's a lot on the line, but
Great singing voice, by the way.
Man, when you started singing the first time, I lost my shit. When you're doing the victory fanfare.
Oh, this gospel song!
Oh, that was fun. That was an honor, bro.
I love that it keeps coming up too. But then there's another spot when they're lighting the lamps when they're about to do the second reactor. And I don't know if it was like an improv line or something. You're like, we're going to get some treasure across the way.
Yeah.
And I was like, what was that?
Where could they be going? Embarking on an adventure to find some treasure.
So we're in the booth And one of my directors said, hey, we just need you to sing. I'm like, what? And the translator was in there. He's like, you just sing, John. Just come up with something to sing. I was like, for what? And they're like, here's the situation. You're just waiting around. The player isn't doing this. I'm like, oh, okay. So just have fun. I think I sang 3 or 4 different little ditties and put words to them.
Sure.
Some of them were nonverbal, and they're like, that's the one. I'm like, well, which is the one? Well, we don't know yet. We're going to take these 3. And I'm like, okay. So they chose that one. And it was very funny to see it.
Speaking of the localization, it really seemed like a game that was written with the English-speaking territories in mind first. But was it originally in Japanese, and then you said there was a translator?
That whole thing was in Japanese.
Okay.
Localization is usually so shoddy on so many games. Almost every RPG I play, their attempts at humor falls flat. And there are moments in this where the deliveries and everything feels natural and written with an English-speaking audience in mind. Yeah. Was there anything different about this process that you noticed versus other things you've worked on?
Well, we had unbelievable translators, and John and Ben, who came over every time we recorded to be with many of us as the main characters. They were in the booth with us, and their writing was just superb. And if there's something we didn't get, they translated it right there for us. So we would get the Japanese version in our ear.
Okay.
And that was to set the tone, but more importantly, to let us know how much time we had to say the line. And so if a line had to be changed from the writers, they changed it and it still fit within the time, or else we had to make it fit within the time. I'm the kind of guy who it's about the work. It's about the project. I want to honor what's already been written. So I'll try to get it within the time because it's their words. It's, the work. And they're closer to it than I am because they've written it and seen it more at that particular point than I had.
Right.
So I wanted to honor the writing. And the way they wrote was so natural and the way they translated was so smooth. But you got to understand the original writing in Japanese was pretty doggone smooth too. It's hard to take a translation and say, no, we need to make it this. When it's easy, when it just fits, that's when the writing is incredible.
Sure.
That's why hats off to Square Enix for taking this long to get it right. Everyone was in anticipation and upset when it was like delayed. It's like, yeah, but look at the product now. Look at what you got.
Take your time. I'd take all the time you need. I prefer to have a product that is fully realized.
Yes, and this one really did impress me. It just kind of came out of the blue. I didn't realize how nostalgic I was for this game. And then the performance from the main cast is There's
everything in the game lands in such a big way. The design of the world, all of the characters, the music,
the visuals.
How much access did you have to some of that material? Did you get to see a lot of images of what was taking place? You get to see video of this. You were seeing videos of the scenes, I'm guessing, that you were doing the dialogue for, right?
Here's the deal. I'm a music fan. I like to match the music with the movement, with the visual, or in any shape, form, or fashion, however those 3 may go. So we didn't really have the music along with what we were doing. So I'm like, all right, this is what I know from back in the day. I also had some music that had been redone from a group. Pontus was the guy's name. He's incredible. He did the score for a lot of the Final Fantasies, done the songs, and I met him through KupoCon, a convention. I'm just in love with them. They're just...
I'm sure they love you too.
Yeah, but not... When I went, that was my very first con. I'm like, what the heck is a con? My wife went with me, and she's like, I don't know. It's a bunch of sweaty teenagers, I bet you. I'm like, no, I don't think it is.
Yes.
Yeah, and then she got there and was like, oh, we can come back here anytime they want us to. Oh, we'll go anywhere they want. And I was like, yeah, me too. Yeah. Anytime. I've never been in a convention like that. Long story short, I took some of that music that I heard and was like, okay, so when I go back into the sessions, I'll remember that this is Aerith's song. Okay, this is the cathedral, Flowers in the Cathedral. Okay, this is... So I was able to do that. But as far as what we got, B, man, we got we got a visual sometimes of the scene. Sometimes. Or we got a visual of the character moving. Sometimes it was finished. Most of the times it wasn't rendered yet.
Yeah.
So we had to really turn on those creative caps and create to work. That's why hats off to the voice cast. They worked, bro. We worked.
How long ago was it that you joined on the project, and how far along was it when you jumped on?
Right before we started recording is when I was hired.
Was that a few years ago?
Like 2015?
Where are we? Because my dad had passed. So it was shortly after that. So maybe 2018.
Okay.
Was it hard to sit down and just know you have that epic, huge thing coming and just waiting for it? I would want to just be telling everyone about how great it was going to be.
You delayed it again?
Oh, man, I'm a talker too, bro. And I got in trouble, I think, the second week because I was just happy I didn't know what Twitter was. And like my sons had to introduce me to all this social media stuff. And all I did was say, hey, it was a great day in the booth today because it was announced that we were doing it. So, hey, it was a great day in the booth today. And I was just talking to, and I named some names.
Oh.
And I didn't say their whole names. I just said their first name. I'm like, nobody don't know that. And they're like, hey, you need to be quiet.
Slap.
And I went, oh, dang. Okay. All right. My bad. So I became real secretive.
Sure.
Because first of all, it's a dream job. And then, which made it easy to answer your question, to come in every day. I had no problem coming in and doing that work. That was fun. It was a labor of love. It was just fun. And the group that we had from the sound, our tech supervisors, our sound booth, our directors, the places where we were, the actual physical companies that allowed us to record there. I mean, it was fun.
How many?
Yeah, and with the NDA, look forward to the next 10 years of every single person asking you anything they can to get a little bit of information. I already just crossed out some questions before the start. I'm like, I got
used to that real quick, real early on.
Did you get most of the script right away? Were you?
No.
You were only given what you needed to know?
For that day.
Oh, really?
Like if it'd be like if, like today, you guys prepped for me. So we're like, all right, let's talk about John and Barret and Final Fantasy. It was the same way with us. It's like, okay, we're on Reactor 1.
Instead, I've been preparing for this interview for 15 years.
How many hours do you think you spent in the booth for this game?
A lot. But for me, it wasn't just in the booth. It was also, there were some times where I came home and I went, I remember how I did that. I don't like that. Despite being in the booth for 4 hours, I remember, can we go back to that scene the next day? And let me make sure that his voice was right here because I don't think it was, or it was off the court. It was also out of the booth,
right.
Where with the research alone prior to going into to record. And then if we had a break off to record, thinking about, okay, well, I know what comes next because I played the game. How do I prep for this? And what sense memory can I use for Marlene and, all these different things. So it was a lot. I couldn't even tell you how many hours. I'm sure they know.
Were you replaying the game as you were going through this whole thing, just back and forth?
Certain sectors and certain sections. The craziest thing for me though, Brad, is I had to go back and play the game so that I would remember the order. Because, after you haven't played for so long,
Sure.
Yeah. And then I never got a chance to finish playing the game. Because like I said, I have 4 boys.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
And they literally took my PS4, brought it in their room, and just played. I couldn't get it on Xbox. So however I got it, I had to go back and go, okay, wait a minute, what happened in this? So I had to go online and look, okay, that's what happened. So that was the only way I could remember. But it was good that I didn't stick to that order of things because we didn't record that way.
Sure.
And then when we got in the booth and said, okay, today I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, I got to go from here to here to here. And that was another thing that I don't think a lot of people realize because I got some criticism from people who I would have never expected to get criticism from.
What?
But, some hateful words. But, and you're always going to have a group that loves it or hates it. For this one, I think there was no in between that I've seen.
Yeah. It's something that this as big as Final Fantasy VII, there's going to be some people that are upset no matter what happens.
Oh, yeah. Yep. No matter what you do.
Yep.
And I'm not a people pleaser. I hate when people aren't happy, but I'm not the cause of people's happiness. So
right.
Mine, sometimes you are.
I don't like those people. Those people are wrong, by the way. Whoever didn't like it.
But, the criticism was pretty harsh. But then I realized, they just saw clips. They just saw preview or they just saw, they didn't see the character arc. They didn't see the story because Barret starts one way. For me, if you start a TV show, a movie, a play, a video game, an anime, if you start one way and stay that way, in my mind, you're one note. Your character hasn't evolved. You haven't grown.
Right.
You haven't affected the other characters around you or the people who are viewing. That's just how I see it. I try to be as realistic as I can in whatever world that is. I literally took the time because I read my tweets and stuff like that. People flip out. Are you going to have so many things you're not going to be able to respond? I'm like, why not? I want to respond to people because I'm happy that they got to see it. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, thank you for thanking me. You know, I went to this particular young lady, her website, and I saw, oh, you got issues. I get it. And so it made it a little easier for me to have more grace than say, oh, you're just an angry person. I get it. So I'm like, I'm going to commit to pray for you from a distance. That's how I am. So,
right. Was there a point when you were, you said you were getting like a lot of these lines the day of, you didn't know like the full picture right away. Was there a certain point when you kind of said, I don't remember this happening in the original game, or something seems like it's going to be a little different? Because the remake is more than just the same thing, and I love it so much because now the doors are open for a lot of different things to happen. Was there a point where you noticed that and you had to question, or because you had to realize at some point, right?
Oh, I realized it a few times, and not just with my character, because my character interacts with almost everybody. At one point, I went, wait, what's going on here? I don't remember this. And because they knew I had played the original, whichever translators were in the booth at the time just either fell out laughing or smiled because they're like, yeah, we know that's a little different, but just give it time. Just give it time. Because they still didn't want to reveal to me what was going to happen later because they wanted me to be in the moment. That's why I say they're great writers. And so there are a lot of twists and turns that I went, hey, man, that didn't happen. And then there was one big twist and turn that was like,
yes.
Oh, dang.
Yep.
I'm not going to.
I had to tell. I told Tom, I'm like, if you have 5 hours to get to that point, Tom, you need to get to the top of Shinra Tower before this interview, just so you know.
Got there yesterday, so on my birthday.
So you know what I'm talking about, T?
Oh, yeah.
So at that particular point, I'm like, no.
All bets are off now. What the hell are they doing?
Dang it.
I know. And I felt bad because I'm like, oh, man, I bet he didn't see this coming. And now,
Oh, I didn't. In the booth, I'm like, I did everything that I possibly could not to say, what the? And so I literally went, wait a minute, man, I think I need to use the restroom.
Yeah. Did anybody tell you like, no, it's just.
No.
Okay.
You know why? Because the realism of the scene played itself with me looking at that and then translating. And it was for everyone. You are in the moment. You are forced to be in the moment with what is happening as it's coming at you. And they did a great job of setting a scenario and saying, work. For me, that was my experience in the booth. And I was very, very thankful for that.
Yes.
Because I think it really helped with a lot of the realism and a lot of the emotions that all the fans are writing me about. Say, hey, when you were at this part and that happened, I think I shed a few tears. And I want to say, well, I know I shed a bunch of tears during the scene because it was real, and it kept it real.
When Barret falls into the underground lab and he's by himself and you take control of him, I was overjoyed. I was like, finally, I get to be my man here. And I love the way Barret plays. Have you played through
He's
the
smooth,
full?
ain't he? He's smooth.
Oh, man.
Have you seen his barrel rolls? I'm like, dude.
all the time. All the time.
Dude, you had to, and when you're dodging, lasers, this is incredible.
Some of the best abilities too. He's almost like a blue mage, and he's got like the long range. I love his support stuff.
Oh yeah.
Have you gotten all the way through the remake yourself? Have you played through it? No.
I literally
Are we spoiling it for you.
Sorry.
No. So literally, I have 4 boys. My third son is a computer genius. He's incredible. I've never seen it. He can take your iPhone, throw it across the room, and by the time he walks back with it, it's fixed. He's that dude. He works for a liquidator company, and he said, Dad, I'm going to buy a PS4. I'm like, why? We already have one. Your brother has it in his damn room. And he's like, well, I'm going to buy it. I'm like, but you're a PC gamer. He's like, I'm going to buy it. I want to work on it. It's broken. I'm like, and whose money are you going to buy it with? Because it just changed.
Right.
So he bought it. He fixed it that same night.
Wow.
And started playing it, created his own account. And he got some of the games that I used to like from back in the day.
Yeah.
Off the PlayStation Store. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And this is the son that is a lot like me. So he said, Dad, why don't you take the game and put it in your room for now? I'm like, okay, sure. I downloaded the game, got Final Fantasy VII, the remake on. I started playing. I got to the first reactor, and it seemed like everybody and their mama needed me for something. Everybody. Whether it was work, whether it was my family, whether it was my wife, whether it was home, it was just crazy stuff. And so I have literally just gotten off the train from after blowing up the first reactor. And I'm waiting. I haven't even gotten to Seventh Heaven yet. I'm waiting to get in to play because it seems like every damn night, because it's now in my bedroom. And my wife is like, you can't play it when I need to go to sleep. I'm like, it's too much, it's distracting. I'm like, but you can't, the volume, I got on headphones. She's like, right. I hear you clicking the buttons. I'm like, oh. So I haven't been able to play it like I want to, but eventually I will. Plus, I was in the middle of playing so many other games, man.
Right. You're in for a treat once you get to
play.
I
know.
Yeah.
I know.
After you were done recording, did you ever take Barret home with you?
It was hard. I mean, you're talking about every day. I think for some weeks, there was one time when we worked over the weekend to make sure that we got our timing right. You're talking about every day for pretty much 4 hours a day. So I was, it was hard not to bring him home. Especially when you're thinking for the next, okay, when we get to this, because I left off here, what do I do here? And I know that, it's hard not to bring them. But I was able to because I have a long commute. So I was able to just put on an audiobook and get back to time.
Our Facebook fan, David Jones, asks if there was any ad-lib or improv because it feels natural. You said you were taking him home. Did you have any realizations for something you wanted to explore with Barret as the recording process was going on, or any things you were suggesting?
I put Barret in the modern world a couple times when I did drive-throughs.
Nice.
I did it at Krispy Kreme one time. It was hilarious.
What did you say?
I can't. It's because Barret is a lot like one of my uncles too. He's a mixture of several different things in my head, and then people that I know. Mm-hmm. And a guy by the name of Lou Bellamy, who ran the Penumbra Theater, and then my uncle John, who recently just passed. He was a mixture between the two of them. I remember they had a pumpkin spice donut, and there's only it's like certain times they have it around Thanksgiving. Yep. I'm like, can you tell me if you still have those pumpkin spice donuts? And the lady was like, yeah, we do actually. And she just went in, but you can tell she went, is somebody pranking me? I just wanted to see what would Barret do in the modern world, and how would he sound, and how would people react? Yeah. And then I got up to the thing, and she's like, "Hi, did you order the pumpkin spice?"
And then Nick Fury answers or something.
Right. Oh, that would have been Harris. I told you I wanted a mother.
Speaking of Nick Fury, I have to tell you, you do Samuel L. Jackson better than Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, no, I do not. Samuel L. Jackson is the man. He's one of my bucket list dudes. Like, I've got bucket list people that I would love to meet. I got to meet Denzel. I got to meet Angela Bassett.
Wow.
Several other people, but Samuel L. Jackson is a hero.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask if you had ever met him and talked to him like him, and if not, how do we get this to happen? Because the world demands it.
Oh, I wish. Now, that is one of my uncles. He sounds just like that. I was brought up in a house he was a principal, and he spoke like I've got to see him discipline kids as a kid, and I got to see him mellow out. And he was that uncle I'll never forget. I'm telling another story. Punched me in the chest one day because I was crying over something. I was young, maybe 7, maybe 9. Punched me in the damn chest so hard that I went, and of course, as a kid, that's not going to stop you from crying.
No, right. No.
So I started crying again. He said, real men don't cry. Boom! Hit me again. I went,
I'm 8 years old.
Right.
I stopped crying. And do you know that crap affected me until I was 21?
Yeah.
I hadn't cried from, I think, 9 or 10 till I was 21 years old.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And
everything that had happened in between that time, as I'm crying, came out in memory. I remember my grandfather died. I remember that. I'm like, what the hell am I crying about that for? It's because I never let it go, because that son of a gun punched me. And I told him about it before he passed. I said, hey, man, back in the day, you punched me in the chest like I was a grown-ass man. You told me men don't cry. And he said, I am so sorry. He said, that was a lie. I apologize to you, and that hurts me so much to even know that I did something like that. And he apologized profusely. Up to the day he probably passed, he told me, he said, that is not true. I'm so sorry. I was brought up a certain way, and I was in the military, so I apologize. I never meant for that to happen. And then I went on to tell him what I just shared with you about not being able to cry.
Right.
Anybody who's listening to this, it's okay for men to cry. As a matter of fact, it makes us stronger, and it cleanses us from a lot of mess that's usually pent up. Because as men in this world that we live in, we deal with some stuff. So let it out if you need to.
We usually cry after every podcast.
Oh, man, that's. I hope you don't cry after mine. Be like, dang, that damn John sucked.
It's nice that you got to have the closure with him and talk with him about it, though.
Yeah, he was the uncle that just passed about 2.5 weeks ago. So
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, that's okay. It's just, he's in a good place now. I truly believe he is hanging out with my dad and my mom and his ex-wife, and up there chilling.
Right. Just a question in general. You started by doing on-screen work with Sister.
That was my first on-camera job in Hollywood.
Okay. How did the transition to voice acting come along?
I did a lot of non-union voiceover work. Mostly it was industrial, so I was ear prompt trained.
Oh, sure.
Doing all that kind of stuff in Minneapolis. And then I did an animated thing where I was an animator who created this character who was a dog who spoke, but I was the only one who could kind of see him. So I had to, do on camera with him. And so I went, wait a minute, let me see what's out there. Is it any different out there? So I thought there was only industrial stuff. And I got out here and someone said, hey man, go to voice123.com. So I always talk about them because that's basically how I really, really got into animation stuff. I always liked animation, always loved anime, I always loved shows that dealt with cartoons. I was only child. Saturday mornings, I'm like, oh, I can do that voice. That's Quick Draw McGraw. Oh, I can do that voice. It's Snagglepuss. So I was watching stuff and going, oh, that's an easy voice to do. So at one point, I started auditioning. They're like, hey, you can audition for this cartoon or you can audition for this video game. I'm like, really? So they're like, yeah, all you need to do is have a mic. And I'm like, I have to have a mic? And they're like, I think you should go. Right, exactly. They're like, go into the booth. And, so once I started doing that, I'm like, wow, this could be lucrative. So I joined Voice 123. I got my whole setup done. And then my first job paid for all of my equipment. And I went, yep, I think I like this. And then one point, forgot the game. It was a comic book. It's now a huge game. And they said, hey, can you do the voice for this character? This is the first episode. This is the second episode. Well, I was a comic book fan. Yeah. So I'm like, heck yeah. So I came in and they had heard my voice on Voice 123 and said, hey, come into our booth. I'm like, well, I live in LA. And they're like, yeah, we're in Santa Monica. Come into our booth. And I'm like, oh, okay. And what was the name of that game? It's going to kill me. It's on my IMDb. It's on my IMDb somewhere.
You only have 175 different credits on IMDb, John.
Some of those aren't mine.
That's
like if you go down to the bottom and you see a thing called So Fine, that was a movie that I watched growing. I'll never forget watching that movie as a little dirty-minded kid because it was about these jeans with the booty out. Right. So I'm like, oh, this is new jeans and, it's got booty cheeks on it and it looks like someone's butt is out of the jeans. Basically, glorified chaps. And I'm like, ooh, I'm going to see this because it might have some girls with their booties out. Right. Right. That's not me. That's John Bentley, the white John Bentley, who was an actor, writer extraordinaire back in the day. Oh. So they put his credits on my credits, and I wrote them. I was like, hey, man, that's not me. Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, but then somebody says, hey, man, you were working back in 1970.
You're like 2 months old. Yeah.
Could it have been Sailor Moon?
No, Sailor Moon was Tiger's Eye. No, it goes further back than that. It was Dead Space. Ah. It was originally a graphic, I won't say novel because they hadn't done all the, the series yet. And that's when I really went hog nuts when I was like, oh, wait a minute. I can get a graphic novel and it covers the whole season? I'm good. So that's where my Dreamhaven days come in.
Right on.
Because that's where I discovered it. Lost a whole lot of money spending.
And you've got to play a lot of wonderful roles across your career. One that a lot of people love is Fire Emblem from Tiger and Bunny.
Love that because that was one of the funnest. Oh my gosh. I just found out 2 days ago that they're bringing another one back.
Really?
They're bringing a part 2 to the end of the first movie or the second movie. And the Japanese cast, I don't know if they've recorded or anything yet, but I'm like, man, I hope they bring that back so I can play that character. I hope I get to go back in and play. That was one of the, I got a very dear friend who I used a lot of his voice for that.
This one's for my mom. Days of Our Lives.
That's for both of our moms.
That's for both of our moms. What is that experience like?
I think I was just on, is it Days of Our Lives or One Life to Live? Something. Soap operas are different, bro.
You heard it here first.
Soap operas are you have to be ready to go. And most of my scenes that I've ever done for soap operas early in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
For many of them, you don't get your sides until maybe the day of or maybe the day before. Mm-hmm. So you don't really know what you're saying. The writers haven't finished it or has to, you have to be ready. You talk about an actor prepares. That's a lesson in itself. And you have to know your character. Mm-hmm. You have to know what you're going to do, and you have to do it. And they only give you maybe 2 takes.
I was going to ask how many takes, yeah.
They will cut around your butt if you don't get it right. It's amazing how the directors on soap operas are beast mode because they get it done, they move on, and they shoot several episodes in a morning. Not a day, a morning.
Oh, my gosh.
They're bad. It's bad, boy. There's some bad dudes. And then soap opera actors, whew. Hats off.
So going back to Final Fantasy VII Remake, probably for a lot of you, this is one of like the biggest, most exciting roles you've had in voice acting for, I'm sure, a lot of you. Besides continuing on with the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, is there any other movies, TVs, video games, like anything you'd really want to be a part of, a dream job for you?
Dream job would be to work with Sam Jackson
on a Tarantino
in
film,
some shape, form, or fashion. I don't know about Quentin's films, but it'd be fun. I like Quentin. I dig some of his style. I dig how he thinks. I love his brain.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah, that would be fun. I would love to do, honestly, work with Spike Lee and Samuel L.
Oh yeah,
that would be fun. I'd love to be a part of anything with Denzel. There are several different actors. I just recently got to do understudy a show, Good Times. They remounted Good Times, and all in the family at the same time. So I got to meet Jesse Eisenberg, who's he's a hero.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
He's just unbelievably intelligent. I wanted to meet him ever since I saw, not Zombieland, but Now You See Me.
Now You See Me.
Oh, yeah.
And got to meet him. Several people that I've met, Woody Harrelson.
Nice.
So that's on-camera stuff. I would love to do a project where I got to be in it longer than a day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or 3 days. I'd love to do an arc of a character. Television stuff, I've done so much. But there's a lot of good dramas that are out there. There's a writer out there right now by the name of Reginald Cook. He is an unbelievable writer. Hopefully I'll be able to do some collaborations with him. Mm-hmm. There's an anime studio that's being built as we speak in the South with a brother named Charles West. I hope that I'll be able to do stuff with him. There are just certain people who I just want to work with, regardless of what the project is, because I know it's going to be good work and a good project. I haven't seen many of these guys do anything that they've shared with me that hasn't been just on point. Yeah. So the world's about to see some, I think, out of this whole virus thing, I think a lot of creativity is happening with the time that's been spent focusing on their careers. So you asked me who I really want to work with and for. There is an animation company. It's called Noir Caesar.
Okay. Look
that up because I think they are doing quality work, especially within people of color's culture. Johnny, I can't remember Johnny's last name right now. It's killing me. He is a basketball player in the NBA. He was a basketball player in the NBA. Now he's a professional basketball player, and he loves anime. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to start my own company because there aren't people of color. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. I hope that I get to work with them in the near future because they do some serious stuff. And I just read one of their books. I'm like, this is some quality stuff. Everybody can relate to it because either you want to be like that or be in that trend, or you are in that trend and you're like, oh, this is somebody who looks like me. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Looks like Johnny O'Bryant.
Johnny O'Bryant, yes. Sure. Yeah, you really reach out to them. think there's a woman who works for them named Jax, Jax. Incredible talents over there.
Yeah.
They're writers, they're animators. Whew. I mean, they're right up there with Boondocks.
Yeah.
And I think I'd love to work on Boondocks too. But there's so many different things. I'd love to do more Japanese anime. I'd love to do more anime. But like I said,
options are unfortunately kind of limited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in different cultures, they don't view us as having different voices. And I know my range can go from where I am now, or where I am now, or where I am now. You know, so, but no one expects that when they see this 6'4" black dude. You know, and it's unfortunate, but you know, there's a lot of talent out there in different cultures that I don't think is getting a chance, you know. Yep. So my dream job would be if I could do voiceovers, I would be doing voiceovers. And if I had a choice to do on camera or voiceover, I mean, look, I can come in looking like this.
Don't even have to wear
I would
pants.
choose, for sure.
And plus, it's just fun.
We can just hang out without our pants on and just drink beers.
Yep. Right. Don't get me wrong. I love my on-camera stuff, man. You get to...
There's like a different. I went to film school and I've been in front of the camera a fair amount. It's fun. It's intoxicating. I like being on camera much more than stage because I can mess up a line and redo it. Versus stage acting. That's some intense drug that you're taking there. Just being in front of someone, the show must go on. I read Stanislavski in college and I'm like, I can't handle this shit.
No, but you know, it's the best work. It's the best experience. It's the best way to get your chops. And talk about stage work. You're talking about doing Shakespeare. If you don't know iambic pentameter, if you don't know what you're saying, if you don't understand the time in which you're saying it, or King James English, you can't mess up.
Right.
And if you do, and you're able to improv in Shakespeare, you are a bad mother. You know what? You know. So I learned that from one of my classmates, David Ivers, who now runs a theater here in Southern California. Stage work is where I come from, but I agree with you. I love doing camera work because the ensembles that are created are better than, in some ways, stage work. You got to come prepared in that amount of time. But I'm like, if I studied for it all, I'm going to do it all as long as I possibly can.
It's fun to be working. It's fun to be performing. As long as you're making people laugh or cry, I think that's what the joy of your art form that you definitely are succeeding at. I can't tell you how every time Barret opened his mouth, I was ecstatic.
Cool.
You did a great job.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm like, if I can bring any kind of joy or a glimmer of hope or just happiness to somebody right now, or pick up the workers who are on the front line, I'm going to do everything I possibly can right now.
And speaking of everybody, we do have some questions that some people wanted us to ask you. So we'll go through some of those now.
I'll answer everything I possibly can.
Yes. Twitter user @JakeRock said, having played the original game, is there any scene that you're looking forward to possibly seeing? I don't know if this
assuming there's more games.
I mean, maybe what are some of your favorite scenes for Barret in the original game? How about that?
In the original game, I love when they go and they do the chocobo stuff. That's just cool to me. I also love the stairs, which is just hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's a lot. There's so many with him though. It's just good. I love anything that he does with Marlene.
On my most recent playthrough, I kept Barret and Sid in the party the whole time. I'm like, I kind of know everything's going to happen. I just want to be laughing the most, and those two are providing the best commentary for what's going on. Speaking of that, Twitter user @SoCal_9029 says, stairs or the elevator?
For John or for Barret?
For both.
Because Barret straight up is like, you know what? Give me the doggone elevator any day. I'll shoot whoever comes on there who I do.
Barret is the worst at incognito. I'm going to go in with my gun and shoot him.
Right. And Cloud's like, no, Barret. That's not how it works. Cody just killed it. But yeah, think about it. This is how I always look at it. I was staying at a hotel back in the day, and Madonna was training there. Madonna is an in-shape woman, bottom line, at her age even now. Madonna, somehow the hotel was locked off where you couldn't go down the stairs. Now me, I was in the hotel. I just wanted to go down and get a doggone drink because, you know, they're on every other floor in this particular hotel. I tried to go down the stairs and they wouldn't let me. I said, why can't I go down the stairs? Madonna's training. She's running the stairs.
Oh, yeah. Really?
That's no joke. Wow. I used to run stairs when I was in high school for basketball.
Yeah.
It's no joke. No joke.
No.
So you're talking about 57 flights?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was exhausted by the time I got to the top, and I was just pushing forward. So
I don't know. If I see an escalator and stairs are right next to it, I'm like, I'm not gonna puss out. I can do the stairs.
Well, yeah, but that's an escalator. Now you come here to LA.
Yeah.
Actually, I can't lie. I was in London and I'm like, man, I'm gonna take the stairs. Everybody's on this escalator. I'm like, why did I do this? Because I didn't know how many layers.
right.
It went up.
Now
I'm like, we are way down here.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I never took the damn stairs again.
Twitter user at Jake Rock also wanted to know, what kind of music / bands are you into?
Dang, Jake Rock, you want to know everything. Man, I'm a musicologist, bro. I grew up, my dad was he was an eclectic. He had everything from Barry White to Neil Diamond and Frank Sinatra, Howlin' Wolf, Sam Cooke, Lou Rawls, jazz, blues. He even had like Pink Floyd and Guitarro. So I love every genre of music. One of my sons is a musician.
Oh, awesome. What does he play?
Noah Bentley. He did several songs. He does R&B and rap, but now he's teaching himself to play guitar and piano, and he's on a whole different level of eclecticism. He's introducing me to so much music. And then my youngest son loves music, but he sings. So it's like, and he plays basketball. So it's just, I love music. I can't think of any other band. I love old school music. I think Sam Cooke and Marvin Gaye had some of the best voices you'll ever hear.
I love Sam Cooke.
I love Motown.
Yeah.
There's so many. That's a baited question right there, bro. Because I love instrumentals too, and I love classical.
Yeah, that question could be a 2-hour answer if we wanted to really
could.
It sounds like you were raised right. I love all those bands.
It takes you different places. Music takes you places. That's why I like to, when I'm working, I like to put on music to whatever the project is. And sometimes I go completely opposite with the music to whatever the project is, because you get new ideas.
Especially these times where we're kind of just stuck in one place. Music has definitely been an escape for all of us. So
my coworker from Eagle Park Brewing, Nick Nellen, asks,
"Oh boy,
what up, Nick?"
That just tickled him right there. He's very excited. What is some of your favorite songs from the original and from the remake? Like, what songs stand out for you in Final Fantasy VII?
I like, is it Tifa's song? Oh, I don't remember the name of it.
It's probably just Tifa's theme.
Yeah.
I love the battle songs, but I love the ending, the fanfare to me, being tagged on to everything. I don't know how they did it, even in different keys.
Yes.
That's just cool. That's special to me.
How they snuck
did
that in. Yeah.
And now you are a part of that theme.
Yes.
And like I said, that's an honor, dude. I mean, Final Fantasy characters to get to the fanfare, dude. That's just like, that's an honor.
That was like the best touch. I swear to God. When you did that part, I was smiling ear to ear. Oh, man. I loved it.
That was fun.
At Mama Mia Nodder asks, what would happen in your opinion if Barret, Nick Fury, and Fire Emblem ever met in a bar?
That would be a good one, wouldn't it? Oh, man. That'd be, hey, fellas. Hey, why is your finger lit up? Yeah, your finger don't look like my arm. Well, I can show you things other than that. That would be so fun. I can come up with a script for that. That would just be hilarious.
There's going to be so much fan fiction about this right now.
That would be so fun. That would be really fun. You got my brain thinking now. That would be a fun fit.
At Pantosi says, your confidence and talent have been so wonderful to experience both in-game and in reality. How have you felt your reception for Barret has been received so far?
Someone just asked me something similar to that. My son said, hey, Dad, I've seen nothing but great comments. I'm like, okay, cool. That's great. Out of 250 great comments, I might get that one that's just horrible. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, okay. And then it's in my heart, like, I need to understand why they thought it was horrible. And my crazy butt, I should just ignore it and keep rolling. But I go and look at their website, or I look at their DM, or I look at where their social media, and I go, oh, that's why they think that.
Yes.
Oh, this is why, so because it's not, like I said, I'm not a people pleaser, but I want to bring joy wherever I possibly go. So that gets me. So a lot of the fans love what I'm doing. A lot of the fans on the opposite side of that misunderstand how I'm doing it or what I'm doing because they aren't invested in the project as a whole. So if, like I said, there's an arc here, and in the original game, Barret starts off a certain way, and in each section, something changes, and he either goes back or he's that way. And this is a long run for this. So we have to figure out how to build the character.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see all of the progression that Barret and everyone else will go through. But I think his character's got a lot of important stuff coming up in the next games.
Yeah,
that we will not.
So just how long do these people have to wait before it's all over?
Don't listen to him.
A friend.
Yeah, don't listen to this guy.
NDA.
I thought I'd get him the crack.
Patreon fan Brian Ward, who is also my brother and got me into Final Fantasy VII.
Brian.
Nice, Brian. Way to work.
Yes, he says, do you have plans to do any events or conventions as soon as we can all get together and get outside again?
I was scheduled to do Australia. We're going to do Melbourne. I was scheduled to do an event out here called AVOX with Keith Aram. I was scheduled to do London all this year and wide open to do anything. But then this happened.
Yeah.
And so I literally just got off the phone with my agents before we started our show here and said, hey, they just invited me to Las Vegas to do a show. Can I do it? You guys cool with it? Do you want to handle it? And so that's April 2021 that I know I'll be in Vegas, called Level Up, I think is the name of it. But I'm always looking to do conventions because I'm a people lover. Some of the best joy that I've ever had is that first trip to Vancouver and seeing the kids that came to the con and just, they love these characters because their parents love them, but then they get to meet you and they're in their cosplay gear. And I think there's a picture of me online. I picked this little kid up. He was Cloud. Put him on my shoulder and just walked around. That kid, their family is incredible, but that kid is just, he's a special kid. And there's a lot of kids there that just, love it. And I tell some of my friends that are parents, I'm like, don't let them hear everything that Barret says because they're going to associate that with me.
I was surprised personally that happily surprised. I wasn't sure how much they would go into the mature dialogue and the themes that they had in the original game. And I was very happy that they explored them further even.
Yeah.
Wall Market is a very fun and interesting place. And it's walking what is tricky lines that a lot of people have strong feelings on with just Cloud cross-dressing. And they make it into this fun celebration of personality. And God damn it, how did they nail it? But they did. They hit every moment. I was very impressed.
I'm telling you, Square Enix put it down. I mean, this is a masterpiece. There was a poll the other day about which is the best game that's been released in 2020. And someone said Resident Evil or this or Animal Crossing. And everyone's going to have their opinions. But if you look visually and if you listen audibly and you look at the voice work and you look at the character work and the fluidity of the game, I don't know much that can stand against this.
No.
You're talking about multiple characters, not just, Jill Valentine walking through a building.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
My girlfriend doesn't like video games, and she was asking questions like, what's up with Jessie? Why isn't she here right now? She was asking questions as I was playing.
Where's Jessie?
Awesome.
It's funny and sharp enough to be its own Netflix series if you just cut around the gameplay a little bit.
It's written well.
Yeah.
It's written very well.
For sure.
Absolutely. Any more questions, Brad?
I guess there's one other comment that I'll read. At Champ News Ends says, asks if you are a licensed minister because Barret can preach.
I actually am. I did 2 weddings.
Hey.
Friends asked me, hey, man, we love you, and you always talk about the Lord to us, and you tell us to read the word, and, will you do our wedding? I'm like, no. And my wife said, yes, he will. And I went, what, honey, what? And I said, I'm not ordained. I can't. And then all of a sudden, I found out how I could be ordained.
Just go online, $5,
It was different. It's like you got to go through a serious process, though.
Yeah, depending.
And I don't take it lightly because I'm like, if I marry you, you can't get divorced.
Right.
And I told the last marriage, the last 2 folks, if I marry you, I'm going to talk to you like Barret. If you even think about getting divorced, I will make a machine gun arm.
And don't make me bring out Nick Fury.
Don't make me bring out Nick. He's a lot nastier than, Actually, we're doing Turbo Fast, and I think Whiplash is more hardcore than Nick sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So that dude is militant. If you turn the sound off on that particular scene that they're talking about, who was it again? So I can say their name right.
Champ News Sends.
So Champ, if you turn down the volume on that scene and you physically see what he's doing, there is no way because of how big he is and what he's doing, what he's talking about, there's no way you can't get preacher mode right there. I don't think you can do it any other way. I tried. I tried several different ways actually in the booth. And there's no way to give you, especially in the beginning of that, where it lands. Still trying not to do spoilers. There's no way you can't be preacher mode in that. There isn't. And you have to understand, a lot of people don't know this. When we were in the booth, the mocap was already done.
Yeah.
We had to match the words to the movement.
The physical movement.
And then we had to match the character to the movement. And then we had to match the emotion to the movement. So we had to do all of that like that.
Yeah.
So there's no way to do that, to get a point across as that character, not caricature, as that character without going preacher mode on. And that, like I said, I tried other ways. It was boring. It was flat. It was bland. And it didn't match his movement.
Yeah.
He's passionate about saving the planet. He's passionate about going against Shinra. He's passionate about Mako and what it's doing.
He's leading a movement is what he's doing, yeah.
And it's a ragtag movement of only a few people.
Yes. You're not going to sit there and whisper.
No. Hey, listen to me. As I'm shaking. I mean, you look at the original, he's shaking. He's shaking.
Yeah, he shakes a lot, and he fires his gun in anger a lot.
A lot of arm waving.
Yeah.
Did you read any of the novellas or the expanded universe stuff?
Is that the one where the dude does the voices?
Well, there's one it's called On the Way to a Smile, which it's like between Seven and Advent Children. There's episode Barret where he's going through this process of deciding whether or not he's a monster, and he's going to get his gun arm taken off. It's canon. It's interesting. It's a good little read. Kazuhige Nojima wrote that as well as a Turk side story novella. They're both really good, but there's one that's it actually takes place in Barrett's headspace, and it's him.
Will you send that to me?
Yeah, I'll send you a copy of the book if you want.
Oh, and then I'll read it, I'll sign it and send it back. How's that?
That's a goddamn deal.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. No, I didn't see that one. I did so much online research and I didn't see that.
Brad might be the only one who did.
I would love to see that though.
No, and it's really good. I think it's just they dropped a few novellas and I think they were bigger overseas and they quietly released English versions and they didn't make a big fanfare about it. But some of the characters from those novellas are actually in the remake for the first time, which is kind of cool.
Oh my gosh.
Cool.
Yeah, please. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I would love to see it.
I will definitely.
Because, I had a major problem when I went overseas. And like I said, I'm a comic book dude. So I would go to the newsstands that were out on the store. And I'll never forget going to Mexico and a couple other places in the UK. And they still had comic books with all these negative images of black people, the Mammy character or the Pickaninny character or the Sambo stuff. There was one called Little Black Sambo, and it crushed me, man. I'm like, people are still doing this shit. It crushed me and it hurt my heart. And that was a bigger theme and how I wanted to go by doing. I don't want these different cultures stereotyping race and saying that everybody's like that. Because even as an athlete who turned actor, going to do a show in northern Minnesota where there are zero minorities in some of the places. I'll never forget, we were doing a show and these kids just came up and said, "Oh my gosh, it's so great. Thank you for doing it." It was a show about gun control and they just wanted to come up and touch us. I found out a couple of them wanted to touch us to see if the skin, the color rubbed off because they didn't know any better.
Oh my gosh.
And then I had one of the teachers say, "Oh my gosh, this is so great for the kids because all they see is MTV and you're nothing like them." And then I had a parent say, "Oh, this is an experience for everyone." I mean, just these negative things. And they didn't even realize they were saying it's just that's their experience. So you got all these different cultures overseas that think black people are either the images that they see on television or these old images from how we were portrayed as slaves. I'm just not that dude. Just like I want to see joy in people's hearts, I want to see common sense in people's mindsets. Yeah. We got to grow from it.
The more the world comes together, we can work past all of those negative ideas that people still have. I'm from small town South Dakota, and just from my 31 years on this planet, the world's getting smaller and people are coming together more and more. And it's just spreading love and positivity. When someone touches your skin to see if it comes off, that's a learning opportunity for that child for sure. Because I don't know. I'm from a small town. You only learn from what's around, and I think traveling is great. My brother,
getting out of the small towns is the most important thing, I think, for everyone to do.
Even better. You're right, too.
My brother, bless his heart, he is the palest man I've ever seen. And when he went to Burma, where his wife's from, I think a lot of people wanted to take pictures with him because they'd never seen a giant, translucent, blonde-haired man before over there.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. No, it's true. I got family in North Dakota, and it was interesting even driving there from Minnesota. It's different, and my thing is, as a black man, as an educated black man who was raised by school teachers all around him, are you going to take a situation like that and go nuts and yell, cuss, look for the parent and chastise them? Or are you going to take it as a learning situation to say, hey, let me explain to you why that's wrong thinking, or let me show you that not everybody is like what they're perceived to be. So I remember being in Mexico. I had to finish my degree in Mexico. I spent most of my time in Los Zocalo, which is the market area. And people would go, oh, Juanito Negrito. And it took me like a month to realize they weren't calling me the N-word. They were just talking about my skin tone. And so I was able to talk to a lot of them about their class system. And I was in Cuernavaca. And a lot of them said, we don't have racism like that. I'm like, I can take you down to the book stand right now and show you. But also, let's go down to the beach and I'll show you where the indigenous people, the original folks, the Aztecs, you treat them completely different than the folks who work in the bank.
Sure.
You make them wear white to sell their goods. And it was so many different little things like that. And so I'm very aware of culture whenever I travel. I just went to the UK and fell in love with Glasgow.
Yeah.
And,
nice.
Absolutely love London. Now, you talk about comparisons to Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy's world is like straight up London.
Yeah, I get the same correlation. I just went to London for the first time last summer, and
wasn't it awesome?
Loved it. See? Little chilly.
Yeah, it's a little damp. But it was cool.
Yeah, I packed shorts, Bermuda shirts. I'm like, I should have watched
It was cool. I loved it. A great experience. But, even there, I was on the train, and I'll never forget, my brothers from KubaCon were looking at me like, man, you talk to everybody. I was like, well, I was asking questions because they're very high fashion over there. And, I was talking to this one dude and I was talking to another couple and found out that they had been married for 50 years and, they were happily married for 50 years and they had these kids. And I'm like, well, what's bringing you into London? Because obviously we're way out here. And they're like, well, we're coming in for a procedure. And I didn't even go in any deeper. I said, hey, man, I'll make sure that I pray for you for this procedure. Just, I hope everything's well. And they're looking at me like, what? Man, that opened up the floor. And we talked from the beginning of that ride all the way through.
That's great.
And I listen well, even though we're doing this talk thing. I listen well. And you got to meet people. You got to get outside your own environment. Talking about a kid from Chicago who grew up on the South Side, who was told he wasn't going to be alive past 13. And if you make the 13 mark, you're not going to be past 15 and then 17 and then 19. And I'm like, no, I'm going to beat these damn odds that everybody is speaking over me. And I'm going to experience things outside of my neighborhood and walking to the grocery store. And I'm going to come back and explain, hey, there's life outside of this to whomever I can, wherever they are, that you can do more than what I do. That's just my heart.
This has been greatly inspirational. Yeah, the message is great.
And thanks for singing as Barret. That's important as well.
You're in the game?
Yes.
Do you have any fun projects that you can talk about coming up?
Well, no, I can't talk about that. I think Cannon Busters is out there.
Okay.
I did a role in that's fun. And then Pramar, that was a fun one. We played Varys Truss in that. That's out there. Oh, Resident Evil Resistance?
Yeah. You weren't,
I did that. Did not know that's what it was when I was recording it. If I'd have known that, I would have changed the character's pitch at least.
Yeah.
Brother's named Tyrone. I'm like, damn. Brother, only brother in the game named Tyrone. Yes. And but I would have changed its pitch. I wouldn't have been, and I went up an octave, but I'm like, no, I should have gone up more had I known the concept of everything. But it's pretty interesting. It's a whole different kind of Resident Evil.
Yes.
That's craziness. I mean, I thought it was like Until Dawn.
Yeah.
And then they put that twist on it where you got to get out of here and this is how you do it. And that's just cool to me. It's basically like it's an animated escape room.
It is.
That's just
played
cool
a little
to me.
bit of that.
It's hard too, bro.
Yep.
That was interesting. So that's out there. I can't remember what else is out there. I kind of like do the work and just roll to the next project. There's a lot of stuff that I do that people don't know. It's like I transcribe for the blind. So if you go on to Netflix and you go to Black Lightning, if you're blind, you can't see it. So I have to do the description. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing the description for all the seasons. So you hear me do the description as you hear the actors speak, or in between the dialogue and in between the sometimes music or sound
fascinating.
Effects. That's fun. That's hard.
I
but
will
it's
sometimes
fun.
put those tracks on just because I'm just fascinated at the speed that people can do.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
That's cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
They made me do Animal House, and that was
there's a fat man dancing around in a toga.
That was weird because I'm like, oh, Animal House, yeah, I grew up on this in high school, and I was like, I'm gonna show this to my sons, bruh. The things we got away with on film back in the day.
Yeah,
I'm like, I could never show that to my sons. I don't think I would show that to my sons when they became adults. It was like, ooh. But it was a great movie.
It was. Classic.
But yeah, man, thank you all so much. This has been a blast.
Where can people reach out to you? Twitter handles, all that good stuff.
Man, you know better than me.
Yeah, I do.
Everybody asked me that I should write it down and have it in this little booth. I don't know. I think I'm John Bentley.
He's on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, there we go. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, and I'm on what's that other thing? Facebook.
Yep. We'll put him on the show notes for sure. But just Google him. You guys know how to find him.
I watched Brianna do it, and she's like, and you can find me at Twitch, and I'm like, damn, she's good. And she's like, and what about you, John? I'm like, I felt like Will Smith and Hitch. Uncle Phil.
So your Twitter handle is at John Eric Bentley.
Twitter handle is at John Eric Bentley.
Nailed it.
I'm not writing it down right now.
Again, thank you very much, John.
Before we leave, would Barret have any message to our fans?
Oh, Barret.
Stay safe. Stay healthy. Find somebody to bring joy to.
Where's the lid boy?
Preach on, my friend. Thank you so much. We're Hair of the Dogcast. You can find us at Hot Dogcast on Twitter. We're doing the Brianna thing. We're going to nail them all right now.
Boom.
We're Hair of the Dogcast on Instagram and Facebook.
Hairofthedogcast at gmail.com if you want to email us. Yeah, if you have any more questions for John, we'll pass them on.
Thank you one more time. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. It's been such a joy. I can't describe how much I've been looking forward to this, John. So thanks again. Thanks again for your time. I appreciate it.
And tell your brother he better listen to this damn show. I'm going to show up.
He's the biggest fan of our show. He's a good big supporter. My sister did put in a last minute question, asked if you're single. I will tell her no.
Got the answer to that one.
That's cool. How old is your sister? How many? Are there three of you?
There's four of us.
Okay. Are you the baby?
I'm number 3. I'm 31. I'm 3 of 4 though.
Oh wow! So you're like my boys. Okay. Tell your sister sorry. I'm taking beautiful wife Michelle.
But he can marry her.
But as a minister, yes, you couldn't.
Yes, but I can't. Where are you in? I can't come back to the Midwest.
Right.
And then we'll do it in Barrett's voice.
I'm gonna make her get married to somebody then, so we can see this. I just need to see this.
Great. Do you? I say it. Look over here. Do you? That would be hilarious.
That's awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, John, thank you very much, and we will see you next time.
Love y'all back. Have a good one.